Hey guys, I'm out in the shop tonight to do a little pattern testing. Thought I'd pop a memory card in the camcorder and bring you along. Every year I do my custom name Christmas ornament patterns for people, and I get a lot of orders for these, and so every year after I let these sell for a little while, I try to do a presentation box to put that one special ornament in that maybe you want to give to somebody in particular. And so this year I've got my pattern drawn up for the presentation box. I'm out in the shop just to cut it and test it and see if it's going to work the way I want it to. So I thought you might like to see what we're doing. No real tutorials or reviews or anything in this video. It's just going to be me out here in the shop. So if you see mistakes, you'll find out that I make mistakes, and we'll just move on with it. The ornament I'm going to cut tonight is for my in-laws. It's one of my what I call the ribbon ornament. And again, you can go to my Squirrel Sawyer Workshop blog and order these, if you like. But I'm going to be cutting it out of some 1/4-inch walnut. And then for the display box, I'm going to use, actually I don't even remember what this is. It's bottom of the pile wood. So I'm going to use this just as some test wood to see if the box works out good. And if it looks nice, we'll use it. If not, we'll throw it away. So I'm going to start out by cutting the ornament first, and I'll just take you through the basic steps. I'm going to cut the pattern out. I'm going to apply the blue painter's tape to the board, and I always do that even on the thinner material just because it makes it easier to get the pattern back off of the board. And I've told you all this quite a few times, but just in case you're new to my channel, it also helps lubricate the blade. It makes the blade cut a little smoother. Not such a big deal on this thin stock, but I do it anyway. So we'll go ahead and get some tape on this board, and we'll get the ornament cut out, and that'll probably take a little bit of time because it is an ornament I'm going to give to my in-laws, so I do want it to be, pretty nice. I'm going to try not to make too many mistakes. Usually I edit all the mistakes out in the video, but tonight, since we're kind of just winging it, we probably won't do that. So if you see me screw up, you just see me screw up. Okay, we've got the blue painter's tape on the board. Now I'm going to cut the pattern out so it'll fit onto the board a little better. So once we get the spray adhesive on the back of the pattern, we'll move over to the drill press and do all of our entry holes, and then we can take it over to the scroll saw and get started. I'm not going to move the camera. I've got a glue board over there that I normally use, but in this case I'm just going to do it by hand and get my fingers sticky. Okay, that's good enough. Let's get the pattern down on the board here. There's the pattern all prepped and ready to go to the drill press. Looks like we probably have 16, 17, 19, probably about 30 to 35 entry holes we'll have to drill. So I'll go over to the drill press. I won't bore you with that. I'm basically just going to drill all the entry holes. When I get that done, we'll head back over to the saw. Okay, as you can see here, I've got all the entry holes drilled, and I did take just a minute to sand the back of the board, and I do that pretty often just to get those fuzzies off the back, just to make it ride a little smoother on the scroll saw table. So the entry holes are all drilled. We got the pattern, of course, and everything on there. We're going to run over to the scroll saw and see if we can cut this out. Got over here at the scroll saw and saw something that I don't think I've ever talked about on any of my videos before, or even on the blog. When I buy scroll saw blades, they almost always come in these little packages, these little plastic packages, and they have this cardboard or sometimes just a paper label in there. I like to store my blades in these little, I'll call them test tubes, or plastic test tubes, and you can get these on Amazon if you do a search. I think if you search for, I believe it's a 150 millimeter test tube that'll hold the 5-inch scroll saw blades. Do the math for me before you order. But anyway, I think that's right. And then what I do is I take the little cardboard or paper label out and I roll it up and put it down in a tube and then put those blades in there. And that makes the, the size of the blade and all the information I need on the label available inside these little tubes. And then I just sort them in my rack from the smallest to the largest blade. and I keep all the specialty blades usually back farther in the rack. And I tend to be a minimalist on blades, and we're going to talk about that soon in another video. But I tend to use number 3s and number 5s for probably 90% of everything I cut, and then I'll throw in a number 7 every once in a while. And then if I'm doing a portrait pattern, I might use a spiral blade, but that's very rare. And I have some specialty blades for cutting plastic and metal and stuff like that. But I'm kind of a minimalist, and like I said, in a future video, we'll talk about that a little more, because I know it's a subject a lot of people are interested in. Talking about blades, I have a number 3 reverse skip tooth blade in here. It's a Pegasus brand blade, and I probably would normally be using one of their modified geometry blades, and I've got some more ordered, but I'm out of them right now. So as soon as I get them in here, I'll give you a little more information on those also. But I'm going to go with the smaller number 3, simply because the way I designed this pattern for my in-laws is I actually, instead of just putting their first name or just the last name on here, I did the Bombers. You know, their last name happens to be Bomber. So I did the whole family name with the in front of it. And the reason I did that is because I had enough room to get their name in there. You can order these like this too. Just keep in mind that their name has 7 letters in it, and that is all I could do to get that in there and make it fit. So if your last name is long and you want to add the in front of it on the ornament, just keep in mind it's going to be very difficult to cut, if not impossible. In this particular case, the cutouts inside the M's where it attaches to the base, I could just barely get a 1/16 inch drill bit in there. I almost had to pull out my micro drill bit set just to get it in there. And if it had been any smaller at all, I'd probably have to go down to a number 1 or maybe even a 2/0 blade to get that part of the pattern cut out. So I'm going to use a fairly small blade for this, which will slow me down a little bit, but that's okay. We've got nothing but time, right? I'm just going to zoom in here on the table a little bit and let you watch me cut for a few minutes, and I'll just probably blather on here a little bit while I'm cutting. Hopefully if you hear me go quiet, you'll know because I'm trying to make a more delicate cut or something like that. But like I say, no tutorials here, just a little time on the shop. I'm cutting on this new jet scroll saw, which I'm still having a good time with. I'm still in love with this upper blade clamp. I'll tell you what I'm not in love with though, and I'll show you here in just a second. And I am going to change it out. I ordered the little LED light that came with the saw from Seiko, which is where I bought the saw, which again, love Seiko, so check them out, www.seiko.com. But I have a hard time getting this light positioned to where when the head's moving, I get almost a strobe effect on the pattern. You may have saw that on the camera. So I'm still trying to figure out where to put this light to where I don't have that issue. So I'm going to be moving it around here a little bit. So if you see me cussing it, you'll know why. I'm going to try to make that cut a little smoother. I couldn't see it because it was flashing on me. I'm probably going to take this lamp off and move the lamp that I used on the Excalibur back over here until I can figure out how to deal with this light. Like anything new, it's just taking me time. I think I'll put it back there, tilt it down a little bit, and just see how that goes. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it does look like the strobe is better. Let's see what happens. I do have the vacuum running while I'm cutting. I may turn that off in a minute. I don't know how much that's affecting the audio in the video. Whoops, I don't want to do the outside yet. Probably reach down in and turn that off. I'm trying to get used to cutting with a vacuum just so I can tell people how it's working. I'm going to cut on this ornament a little bit and with the camera off, and then when I get a little closer to the end, we'll come back and finish. You can watch me finish this up, and then we'll move over to the presentation box and I'll show you how that's going to work. I want to point out something here tonight that I mentioned in the overview video I did of this new jet scroll saw the other day. And during that video I told you about the adjustment on this upper arm being parallel to the table, and that the actual travel front to back of the blade could be adjusted by turning the motor in the back to give you a more or less aggressive cut. And I did that adjustment to where I set it perfectly parallel, and the cut seemed fine to me, so you know, I left it like that. Well, one thing I did notice is if this arm is parallel, at least where I had it, as close to parallel as I could get it, this bottom blade, if you got it very deep in the bottom holder, it didn't want to hit the backstop up here as solidly as I would have wanted it to. It actually went under that backstop, which made attaching the blade to the upper holder difficult. So I did go ahead and lower the front of this arm down, probably not more than a 1/16 of an inch, or between a 1/16 and an 1/8, somewhere in there. It didn't seem to change the aggressiveness of the cut very much, so I'm still fine with it. But if you do buy this saw, do be aware that, you know, if you can't get this upper blade holder to come down far enough to hit the top of the blade when you try to install it, just lower the front of the upper arm down a little bit and you'll be fine. I've been working here a little while, and I've got most of the smaller interior cuts cut out, so I thought I'd bring the camera back in and let you watch me cut a little bit. I had to actually stop a little bit because I was getting frustrated. I was making so many mistakes, and I got to thinking about it a little while, and I'm trying to, you know, run the video camera, of course, so that's one of the somewhat of a problem. But also, I'm still getting used to this new machine. I think anytime you change, you're going to go through that a little bit. So I just stopped for a few minutes and reassessed where the problems were, and addressed those problems, the one with the upper arm and the blade clamp that was excuse me, giving me trouble, and the lamp that was giving me a little bit of trouble. And I stopped and looked at it, and I said, I can fix all this stuff. So you know, like I told you a few minutes ago, I readjusted the upper arm. Now that problem has been fine ever since I did that, because the blade goes into this upper clamp with no problem now. I was having trouble with this small LED lamp causing some flickering on the pattern while I was cutting, and that was driving me crazy, and I found the right spot. I just had to experiment a little bit, and it seems that if I get it over here and tilt it down a little bit to where the glare's not in my eyes, and the arm's not flickering inside of the light pattern, then it works fine. So I'm going to go ahead and cut just a little bit more here, and I'm going to take my time, and I may stop talking here as I'm cutting just to keep from making mistakes. I was thinking a little bit ago that a lot of you guys are right now in your holiday season of arts and crafts shows, and you're either building up inventory right now, or you've already started some of the shows maybe. Here in Kentucky, we haven't gotten anywhere near winter yet. We're still in the 70s. We've even been in the 80s. So here we are into November, and we've still got pretty warm weather. It's been really nice for any of the arts and crafts shows they've had around here, but I don't think anybody's in the holiday spirit yet, just because it's been so warm. The leaves around here have all started to change. They started that probably last weekend, so that's really nice. But I got a hunch what we're going to have is we're going to go from warm weather to freezing cold weather, and all the beautiful colors are probably going to bypass us this year, if I had to make a guess. I've been working on this pattern now, including all the time that I've stopped to readjust things and to move the camera, 48 minutes. So I was guessing when we started this that I'd be cutting for about an hour, and probably would have been a little less than that. I probably spent a good 15 minutes just thinking about some of the problems I was having, and reassessing the adjustments that I had made the other day, and putting those back to where they work better for me now. So this ornament can, I'm confident, be cut in an hour without a whole lot of problem. And if you're a production cutter, you're going to laugh at me, because you're going to be able to cut this pattern in under a half an hour. I'm a slow cutter. Luckily, I don't have to production cut. I'm at a position to where the only sawing that I really do is when I'm cutting to test my patterns. So I don't have to get in a hurry. I've never been a real fast scroller anyway. but I know some of you guys really blaze. And you have to if you're trying to make a living doing this. I don't think I could physically set at a saw for 8 hours a day anymore. I don't believe my body would let me do that. Okay, we're moving right along here. Those of you that are doing your holiday craft shows, maybe for the first time this year, I know that can be a little intimidating, and there's a lot of places online that can give you tips and tricks on how to get ready for your holiday show. And some of the main things you want to look for is making sure you have a good survival kit with you, where you've got, you know, duct tape, gaffer's tape, whatever whatever you don't think you're going to need, but you'll get there and find out you do need. If you get there and you're in a tent or a canopy and the wind gets real strong, you've got to be able to make sure you can keep your products from flying away. And so just think through and look online for some of the websites that'll give you information on how to prepare for a craft show, and it gives you a better chance of having success at those shows. Selling arts and crafts has always been and always will be a tough business to get started. Now once you get started, if you build your reputation and you have the customers come looking for you, you can do quite well. But obviously you have to be talented, you have to practice, you have to have, in a lot of cases you've got to have a niche of a product that not everybody else at the craft show is selling. I have always been of the belief that it's better to specialize a little bit if you're a craftsman trying to sell your crafts. For instance, if you go to a craft show and you take 10 or 15 different type of scroll saw fretwork items with you, my experience is that you just kind of confuse the customer. You know, they see all the stuff and they're interested in it, but there's not one thing that stands out, so it's easy for them to just walk out a little bit confused. So I always recommend, if you're going to make clocks, and then have, you know, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you know, other side items that you can sell. Christmas ornaments this time of year obviously are always big. I would never go to a craft show without Christmas ornaments. You can stack cut 3 or 4 of them at a time and get your yield and production time down, your yield up and your production time down, and increase your profit. And they will almost always sell. When you set up your booth, make sure it's not haphazard. You know, put things in places that make sense. You want to treat your work with respect. If you don't, your customers won't, and you won't make sales. So you want to treat your work as an artist, not as somebody that just, you know, goes out in the garage and plays on the weekend. If you're going to sell this stuff, at that point you're a professional, and you need to treat your work like a professional would treat any artwork. So it's really important to make sure you put together a quality display. You want to take your best work with you. Don't take stuff you're not proud of and try to sell it. That's usually a recipe for disaster. And I think, let's see, am I missing anything? I think all we do is one more interior cut and then cut the outside of the ornament. We'll be done. So anyway, if you're getting ready to start into your arts and crafts shows, there are lots of resources online to help you with that. And I definitely recommend you take a look at them, because many artists have gone to their first craft show or arts and craft show, come away so disillusioned that they never go back. And you can avoid some of that disappointment just by getting advice from people that have done it before. and not making the same mistakes that they made. And not everybody is a salesman. Some artists love creating art, but they hate selling it. And they find out pretty early in their career. Wait, stop talking here for a minute. They find out pretty early in their career that they're not meant to sell their item, and they eventually come to the conclusion that they need an agent, or they need to, if it's craft items, go to consignment stores or something like that, where they don't have to be in front of the public. Because, just to be perfectly frank, you can get better at it by practicing and learning. But some people are just naturally more gifted at selling than others. So if you hate it, don't force it. Find a different avenue. Sell online. Maybe your skills are more in tune to writing ad copy, and you can write a great presentation about what you're trying to sell. You might very well be more successful on Etsy or even eBay than you are at a craft show, and you don't have to put yourself in front of the public. Etsy, which is etsy.com, for those of you that don't know, is a very large arts and crafts online marketplace where you can sign up and, of course, for a fee, sell your products. There are some great artists over there that do great work. Again, when you're in that marketplace, you're competing with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of other artists, so you have to make yourself stand out. And the way you do that on Etsy is to create a high quality product or a niche product that nobody else is doing. And then again, it still takes time, because you've got to, your customers have to find you first before they can buy from you. And sometimes that just takes some time. But it's not so expensive that you can't go try it and see how it works out for you. You can always move away from it. But at least it's another option for you to sell your product. Some people have been successful on eBay with arts and crafts, but I wouldn't say that number is particularly high as far as percentage-wise. eBay tends to be a little bit more of a yard sale. That's probably not fair, but that's the way I look at it. It's more of a yard sale type marketplace, because there's so many different items sold there that unless you already have a customer base and you're just pointing them to your eBay auctions, again, it's another place where getting eyeballs on your product is not the easiest thing in the world to do. Even at eBay, there's strategies for how to get people to see your product, but you can spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. But just about any way you do it, unless you get lucky and Ellen decides to put you on her daily talk show, you're going to spend months or years before you will know exactly what your potential is for sales. It takes a lot of trial and error. Sometimes the products that you think are going to sell will not sell. And as artists, we tend to be proud of products or items that we make that maybe took us, You know, maybe we spend 100 hours designing this beautiful fretwork clock, and nobody will buy it because you have to put such a high price on it that it's just not going to sell. I won't say it can't sell, but it's very hard to sell. Whereas somebody that makes Christmas ornaments, and they can take 200 or 300 orders at the show and put their business card out there, and then get several hundred more orders throughout the course of the year, might very well make a better profit than the person that's selling those $1,500 clocks, who may be lucky to sell one a year. I followed a blogger for a long time. He was a scroller, and he didn't totally specialize, but his specialty was making projects that he sold at dog shows, and he was pretty successful doing that. I haven't seen him in quite some time, so I don't know if he finally got out of the trade show or craft show marketplace and retired, but he had what I consider the right ideal, because he had found a niche, and he would actually, rather than go to craft shows, he would set up his booth at dog shows, and did quite well, at least from what I could tell. His blog kind of chronicled his business and the different shows that he went to, and he would talk about what his sales were kind of in a general way in the blog post, and it certainly appeared like he was having a lot of success. He wasn't getting rich, but he was making a nice retirement income. So sometimes you have to look for those alternatives to find a niche that you can be successful in. I know another guy, just talking about niches and kind of catching a tidal wave just at the right time. His church had built a new church, and they were moving out of the old one, and they were selling the old pews because they didn't need them. So this Squirrel Sawyer bought the pews and started making scroll saw crosses out of them, and he couldn't make them quick enough, and he was not even charging very much money at all, because he was basically doing it for the people in his congregation. But like I said, he was cutting saws, and you can imagine how many small crosses you could get out of a pew, even after you cut them up and, you know, processed all the lumber. You're still going to get a lot of parts out of there. So sometimes little niches like that can make a big difference. Things like mentioning at the show, or having signage at the show that your pieces are all made out of renewable lumber, that's not taken from the rainforest, or, you know, any kind of niche like that, that as long as it's true and you're sincere about it, can definitely add to your success. This number 3 blade I'm using is starting to get dull. I'm going to be able to finish this project, but it's definitely wanting to wander a little bit. I'm going to cut the outside of this circle, so I'm going to be quiet here a minute. So anyway, if you do a craft show, and you want to talk about your experience, drop me a line, and if you want to send some pictures or just a few paragraphs about it and you'd like me to post it on the blog, what your experiences, good or bad, were. People can learn from that experience. So I'd be happy to publish some of that stuff. Oh, I gotta slow down. This blade's really getting dull. Wandering all over the place on me. I have to do a little bit of sanding to clean this up a little bit. But that's okay, as long as the end product looks good. That's all we care about, and I can make it look good. I'll just have to do a little post-production work on it. And we're coming along here, we're coming around to the right hand side of the ornament, and we will be done with this, and then we can do what I originally came out to the garage to work on, and that is the presentation box. And I'm going to keep it fairly simple with just one little extra touch that I think will make it an attractive box without getting too complex. So if I haven't run you off by now, stick around and we'll put that presentation box together. It won't take too long. There's very few cuts involved in it. Alrighty there, there's our ornament. We'll go over to the workbench, get the pattern off of it, and then we'll start on the presentation box. I'm going to spend a couple minutes here getting the pattern off of this ornament, and then like I said, we'll get started on the presentation box and see if that turns out the way I want it to. Again, this may very well not be what I end up using. I'm just out here tonight trying to see if it does work. It's going to be a very simple box, and I'll show you the plans here in a minute once I get the rest of this pattern off and see how much sanding I'm going to have to do on this thing to fix the mistakes I made. And the box is basically going to be a holder for the ornament that's the same shape as the ornament, only just a little bit bigger or larger, and it will have a cutout in the front cover that will show the name through, and I hope that's going to be able to add a little bit of extra flair to a very simple box, because those people who want to make several of these boxes, because a lot of people are making 100 or more of these ornaments, if they did decide to use the presentation box on very many of them, I don't want it to be something that they're going to have to spend hours on or use a lot of wood. So again, I'm kind of designing this with that in mind, but I do want it to look good enough that if this is that one special ornament that you're giving to your grandmother, your grandfather, or someone else important in your life, I want it to look good enough that you can be proud to present the ornament to them and kind of make it a family heirloom. Okay, we got a little sanding to do, but there's the ornament cut out, and you can see that's the name of my in-laws, the Bombers, and we'll get started on the presentation box now. Okay, I've got the blanks that we need. The back, of course, we don't even have to put a pattern on, so we just have to cut it to size. And I did spend a little time at the table saw cutting all the blanks down to size. This top of the box will only have one interior cut, and that's the cutout to have the name show through. And of course this one will have two cuts. We'll have the interior cut to cut out the shape of the ornament, and then we'll have one cut to cut the walls out. And when we put it together, I'll show you how that's going to work. Getting ready to start out over here on the scroll saw. I'm going to start out with the middle section. You can see I have this outline around here, and this is going to be the walls. So I've got an entry hole drilled right here in the corner. I'm going to cut this out. That will make the walls. Then I'm going to cut out the inside of the ornament, and that's where the ornament's going to fit into. This piece will then be glued to the bottom. The outer walls will be glued to the top, and they'll slide down over each other to make the box. Obviously, the ornament has to be as thick or no thicker than this piece. So if you cut the ornament out of 1/4 inch thick wood, this has to be at least 1/4 inch thick, or the lid won't fit down on the box. So you can change that up a little bit if you want this to be a little thicker or whatever. But anyway, just so you know, this has to be at least as thick as the box. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'll let you watch over the shoulder here a little bit. Not much to see. I've only got 1, 2, 3 total cuts to make. So we're not talking about too much time here to put this presentation box together. I left the number 3 blade in here because I want this to be a kind of a tight fit. And then what I'll do is I will actually sand it down to give myself a better fit if I need to. So I'm going to back you up here a little bit, and let's see if we can move it just a little bit. Okay, right about there is good, and then we'll do the cut. Again, if you want to make some of these ornaments for your family, or if you sell at craft shows or whatever, you can go to my blog at www.squirrelsawworkshop.blogspot.com, and you'll find a link there that says e-store, and the e-store is where you can place the orders for the ornaments. Again, they are $1 per pattern, with a 5 pattern minimum per order. I'm getting the orders returned roughly in about 48 hours or less so far this year. I've got the process automated a little bit, which is really speeding me up. You do not pay for the ornaments until you actually have the patterns back in your email box. When I finish the patterns, I will turn them into a PDF and send them back to your email address. Then you can examine the ornaments, make sure all the spelling's correct. I do just copy and paste the names right into the pattern. If the spelling's incorrect, it's probably because it was spelled incorrect on the order form, because like I say, I don't even type them in. So do be really careful when you fill out the order form that you do get the spelling all correct. Okay, there's our outside wall. We'll set that aside. Now I'm going to cut out the shape for the ornament to sit in. So anyway, you'll get the patterns in your email box. You'll be able to take a look at them and make sure they are what you want. If you do see an error, all you have to do is email me back, and I'm happy to fix any errors. And then once you're totally happy and satisfied with them, you can either pay by check or cash to my actual mailing address, or you can pay with a credit card through the PayPal link that I provide in the email. You do not have to have a PayPal account to pay through PayPal. We do accept any credit card. And like I was saying earlier, there are quite a few people who are taking orders for these name ornaments at work or other places from their customers. Then they fill out the order form, I complete the pattern, send them back to them, and then they make the ornaments for their customers. but most people are just making them for family and friends. Okay, I just about got this interior space for the ornament cut out. Then we'll make sure that the real ornament fits in this space. Then we have to cut out the peephole for the front, make sure that fits. Then all we got to do is glue it together. So there's our interior piece cut out. Let's real quickly take the ornament, see if it fits with a little wiggle room. And it does. I've probably got a 1/16 of an inch all the way around the ornament there, which is exactly what I want. I want it to, come in and out pretty easy. So that's just about perfect what we want. So now let's cut out the peephole, then we'll remove the pattern and patterns and put it together and see how it looks. Got all the pieces cut out here. I'm just going to show you the order they go together. This is the bottom. The blank piece that has no cuts on it is the bottom. You can notice that I've got the arch of the grain running up this way, and I've got all the other pieces cut with the grain in the same orientation. After the bottom goes down, the center piece gets glued to the bottom, centered up, so that when you put the walls on, they fit over that. So the walls will be glued to the bottom of the front, like this. This will be one assembly. This will be one assembly. In other words, this is the top, or this is the bottom, and this is the top. The ornament will sit in here like this, and then when everything's glued up and centered up, the walls will slide down over the ornament, and once you get everything glued up, you can see that the family name is showing through the little peephole. And then, like I said, this is a prototype. I may add a little bit of an ornamentation right here, maybe some Christmas bells or some holly up here in this corner, and I think that'll make a nice little presentation box. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this up, put a little bit of finish on it, and I'll come back and show you the final product as far as at least up until whatever ornamentation we put on here. Okay, I've got the ornament finished and I've got the presentation box finished, and I just want to show it to you. Matter of fact, I'll zoom in here a little bit and give you a little closer look. This is the lower half of the presentation box. You can see that it's just two pieces of 1/4 inch wood. The bottom piece overlays it so the walls come around it, and the cutout for the ornament. Of course, when we get ready to display it, we put the ornament in the box like that, and then we take the cover, which is the walls. You can see on the perimeter there, they set right on top of the box. And if you look, I went ahead and added a little ribbon that tied it in with the ornament, and you can see through our little peephole the name that you have custom cut into the ornament. So I will get this pattern up on the blog in the next couple days, and I'll do one for the tree, and I'll probably also go back and do one for the layered ornaments. I don't think I'll end up doing one for the pet ornaments. I doubt very seriously anybody needs a presentation box for their puppy. So I'm Steve Good. I hope you like this little project, and again, if you'd like to order the ornaments, just visit my blog and fill out the ornament form, and we'll get some made for you.